So, you want to improve your Lightroom skills? You come to the right place. I'll teach you everything you need to know to get started with Lightroom. Let's get on with it. Okay, well, first place to start. If you're going to be editing in Lightroom, you need to be shooting RAW. If you bought a big, expensive camera to take snaps in JPEG, I can't help you. You're an idiot. Because the point of getting one of these cameras is that you can play around with it. It's a paintbrush, it's a tool. And half the job is done in the camera, the other half is done on the computer. And I will fight anybody who says you should play around with them too much on a computer. I do this in the dark room in the analog ways. Now it's called a Lightroom on a computer. There's no difference. We've always tinkered with our photos, and I shoot knowing what I'm going to do afterwards. What RAW allows me to do is it gives me that flexibility. So sometimes I will be shooting and I know it's going to be slightly underexposed or overexposed, but I know with a RAW file I'm going to have enough detail, as long as I don't, enough information, as long as I don't go too far out of them parameters, that I can pull it back in where I need it and focus on the main point of what that image is about. RAW gives me that flexibility. JPEG does not. Shoot in RAW all the time, knowing you're going to stick it into Lightroom. Right, let's get on. Okay, first image here, you'll see it's a bit dull. There's nothing particularly interesting about it. It's all off center. I picked this one deliberately. It's not just a crap photo. I didn't just go out and take millions of these. I have done. I think every photographer has at some stage, but I took this for this reason. Okay, right. I use this console here by Loop Deck. It's fantastic. Do you need it? Probably not, but I'm easily sold. It is really good, but you can do all this with a keyboard and mouse. It's just a little bit more finicky, that's all. So cool bit of kit, but I'm going to be doing this, but it's all the same. Okay, we're going to start with the basics. I'm going to start with basic first. This is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows. Okay, straight away you can see here, this is it's an underexposed photo. It was actually deliberately taken like that, and this is a good thing. This is what, going back to the whole RAW thing, you can see here some detail in the shadows there, which is great. If I overexposed it and then the highlights were too high, I wouldn't be able to pull back that detail. So let's start with it. Let's start with this. We're going to lighten it up a little bit because it is too dark. Okay, let's go up a little bit on exposure. That's what this one's about. So on the right hand side here, you'll see all these down here, and you start with this exposure. I'm just going to go up a little bit. We have to bear in mind we don't want to make it look artificial, but I'm going to go up a little bit like so. Okay, that will do the trick. Okay, right, now if you see here, there's some shadows and stuff where we're losing a little bit of information. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lighten up the shadows slightly so we can see them branches. Again, we don't want to go crazy with this. People got this obsession with highlights and low lights. Oh, you've got to see everything in shadows. Not everything has to have like a high dynamic range. It needs shadows to make it look natural. So, I just think this seems to be a bit of an obsession at the moment, that. So I'm going to lighten that up slightly. Lovely. Okay, smashing. Right. And obviously we've got our whites and our blacks. Okay. So straight away we can see, if I zoom in here, we've pulled some of that detail out. So I'll show you before and after. You can see here the difference between the two. Massive. You can really see that. That's enough, but it's still got enough shadow there. I don't want to do any more than that, because I don't want to completely ruin the image. Right, okay. So that is your basic tab. That's what they're for. There is a few other things here: texture, clarity, dehaze. I'm going to show you quickly. Dehaze, taking away a lot of the haze. That seems to work. You can see the blues in the skies a little bit more. That can be great. Just a little bit. I've gone over the top, for example, but yeah, that's what that is. Clarity, kind of in the name, that one a little bit. Again, you can see a bit more clarity, a little less clarity. And texture, well, it's texture. Always that textures and everything. Okay, so that's the basic tab. Tip 1 over. Let's move on. Okay, tip 2. This one, in my opinion, is actually one of the most important ones, and one which isn't talked about enough. And this is the mask. This is the mask button, which gives you Now, loads of different options. So if we look at masking here, before there was just a couple of things. Now you've got select sky, select subject. These are new things, new additions. Before we had the brush, the linear, and the radial gradients. I'm going to start with the first one first, which is select sky. Okay. Now the sky, obviously, at the moment I've put it up a little bit, but now when I was playing around with the basic settings, now this gives me a chance to fine tune it a little bit more. So it's selected just to sky, funny enough, because it's in the name. And this is what we're going to do it. So I'm going to line it up slightly, but now it's kind of blowing it out, isn't it? So, and then I'm going to put the shadows down, but you see it's not affecting the rest of the image. So I'm going to lower them shadows, like so, which is good. Let's put the vibrance up slightly as well. I'm also going to lower the temperature, make it a little bit more blue, take out some of the yellower tones. There we go. That's looking nice. And at the same time, just to give the clouds a little more texture, I'm going to add a tiny bit of contrast. There we go. Now that's looking better. Now I don't want to go any more than that, because it's going to start to look a bit artificial. We're going to go down to the dehaze. We were showing you earlier on. Just slightly. But now what we're going to do is put the exposure up again, deliberately here, just to stop it from looking fake. Okay. Right, that's the first part of that. Now we've got a few more tools here. Right, so we've got a brush, a linear gradient, a radial gradient. The brush is great. Again, let's do the radial gradient here, just to make this boat pop a little bit. I'm going to go over like this. This will do the trick. Just put it over, like so. Right, now you'll see, which at the top here, feather. What that does, okay, watch this. If I do it on 0 and I put the exposure up, look at that, it looks crap. We're not going to do that. I don't know why you'd ever do that, but I'm going to put it to 100. But I want it to blend through, and that's what the feather's about, okay? So we're just going to put this exposure up a little bit, make the boat pop a little bit more. At the same time, I'm actually going to put the shadows down a little bit, just to give it a little bit more texture. I don't want it to look flat. Right, there we go, and that's what that does. Okay, so that's the masking tool. There's a few other options there as well, which I'm going to show you a little bit more. We're going to do a demo on one photo at the end, but that's what that does. Okay, use the mask tool. I actually use them so many times. I can select tiny little objects all over the photo, because there's one side might want it and the other side might not need it as much, and so on. So it gives you that flexibility. It's a great tool. You have to be using it. Okay, so that's the masking tool. Let's move on. Okay, crop. Now, this one doesn't need to be cropped that much, but it is wonky because I clearly can't take a straight photo. So this is where we're going to go over to this side over here. We're going to click on the little crop icon. Okay, we're going to use this for two things: one, to straighten it up, and two, to straighten it out a little bit, because you can see there's too much on this side, not enough on that side. It's a bit wonky and not quite central. So on here I've got a little dial on this console, which does make it really cool, because I can do these tiny little turns and it can be enough just to straighten it out. I'm also going to make it slightly smaller actually, just so it gives me a little bit more leeway. Now we don't want to crop too much, because if we crop too much, we're going to lower the megapixels, which is going to make it harder when it comes to printing it. So bear that in mind. So there we go. I've now made that central. I'm going to click like that. There we go. And now that looks, I believe, a bit straighter. Let's just check there. No, it was straighter then. There we go. That's straighter. Now it's more central again. Clearly I haven't got very good eyes. I shouldn't be doing this at all. But now it's a little bit straighter. There is another feature here. Now I'm not going to actually use it now because there's no need, but I will show you. And it's called Super Resolution. It was originally on Adobe Photoshop, and they brought it over to Lightroom in the last 18 months or so, and it's ace. When would I use this? So this blows it up. So this is a 24 megapixel camera, which is great because it's a nice little trade-off. But it's not such a big deal for these kind of images. I've got a little DJI Mini 2 drone. It's only got a 12 megapixel basic smartphone sensor. I bought it based for a bit of fun. It takes raw images, and because of super resolution, I managed to blow up some of these images, and they're printable. I never thought I'd be able to do it. There is a little bit of noise in the photo, but this actually fixes it. So here we go here. That's enhanced. That's without enhancement. The computer learn it, reads all the pixels around it, and you can blow up these, these ones, 24 megapixel photos to like 50, 60, 70 megapixels. It's pretty clever. And I've seen this sort of thing done before, but most of the time it's crap. This is actually quite good. So, especially if you want to print something, yeah, it's ace. But we're not going to do that. That's cropping, that's blowing it up. Let's move on. The most important one, I think, out of all of this, which is learning how to color grade your photos correctly, okay? So I'm gonna go over here, have a little look. We're gonna go down to color grading. Now, if you used to use older versions of Lightroom, this used to be called split toning. It's now called color grading. What's the difference? There isn't, apart from the way it's done now. This is a bit more like the video editing programs like Premiere and Final Cut Pro, where you've got these big colour wheels now. Anyway, I actually prefer it, but you've got three options here. You've got midtones, shadows, highlights. Midtones, don't touch. Bit crap. You'll see what I mean, look, just changes kind of universally the whole thing. It's rubbish. I don't think I've ever used that. You've got shadows and highlights. So you get these really kind of cool cinematic looks in the moment. A lot of people are using teals and oranges. This is what they're doing. They're playing around with the shadows and highlights. They can sometimes make the shadows quite sort of, add that kind of teal colour into it, and then in the highlights, put some warmth on. Or they can flip them around depending on what the setting is. That seems to be really, really popular at the moment. I can show you how we do that sort of thing. So you've got these two little bubbles here, one in the middle, one on the outside. I'm going to start with the shadows first. Okay, let's just go around to, let's warm it up slightly. Let's go to this kind of orangey colour over here. Now we're going to move this closer to it. The closer you go to it, the more it saturates it. Oh, sorry, I'm moving the whole thing around. Right, there we go. So you can see there, if I go right to the outside, I'm going to make it really quite sort of ready. I'm going to make it slightly warmer again, actually. And then let's do it with this on the other side. Look at that. Now that's looking pretty cool. And again, we can shut down here. We've got, not again, I haven't told you this. The bottom here, you've got balance. Now what does that do? You can either take it further over towards the colour of the highlights or further over to the shadows. As you can see, the shadows were warmer, the highlights were cooler. Let's go back to the middle there. That's what that is for. Now, these are pretty simple, but you can play around with these and go the other way. We can actually, let's make these cooler and make highlights like that. And it ends up looking more like an aged photo. And like I say, these bits in the middle here, these little circles, they change the intensity of it. Let's put it back to where it was though. If you like the way, if you get to develop your own kind of style, save it, create preset, go to here, click preset, create preset, little plus box there, type in whatever you want to call it, and save it, because then that way you've got a foundation, and then you'll create your own style, and you can apply that to a lot of your photos, and then you can do just micro edits instead of having to go, I'll do that and that and that and that and that and that, and spend hours on just one image. You can batch a lot of them, so that's a cool way of doing it. So that's the color grading. Very, very simple. You haven't got to overcomplicate it. Midtones, I don't think you need to worry about it. Like I say, I don't play around with it. I don't think I ever play around with it actually. I just, it's too, but the thing is now you've got these tones, you can also go back up to basic up the top, and then you can lower the vibrance, like so, or you can go the other way and make it really, really pop. I don't like that, it's too much, but I like it where we are. But yeah, that's the point of it. So that's how you color grade. Like I said, I've saved mine over time. I've got one like this one here, which I quite like for this kind of thing, like an age. This one I called age 35mm. because it's got that kind of filmic kind of look to it. I've lowered the contrast, but I would add this and I'd maybe put a little bit more colour into it. That's what's great about these presets. Create presets and then I can just tinker them a little bit after. And there you go, that's a really, I think that's quite a cool image now. So I can show you sort of before and after. It's like night and day, isn't it? But away from that, let's undo the preset. Do before and after without the preset, still a much nicer image. So that is how we colour grade. Right, let's move on. Okay, so the final one, we're actually going to do a bit of everything. We're going to grab all the tools we've used to this point, throw them all together on an image here. This image was taken at the end of golden hour, on the cusp of blue hour, one of the best times of the day to shoot, on a lovely lake. What we're going to do here, we're going to incorporate a lot of these techniques and you're going to see how we use them in practice, basically. Right, so let's have a little look. As you can see, at the moment it's underexposed. I shot this with, you know, a fair size aperture at 5.6, f5.6, sorry. It had a, you know, it had quite a big aperture lens. It was f2.8. But I shot it there because I wanted, you know, I wanted to hit the more, you know, closer to the sweet spot of the lens, so I could get as much sharpness as possible. And again, shooting in RAW allowed me to do that. And also I could get a decent amount in focus as well. So that's why I shot that. If I did, I could have gone closer to 2.8, would have made the photo brighter, would have had less in focus, and it wouldn't have been as sharp. So this was a perfect trade-off for me. Okay, here we go. Right, now, as you can see, it's looking pretty dark at the moment. It's a nice photo, but we can definitely improve it. So we're going to go over right to the mask as we've done before. We're going to click the select sky. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to brighten up this just a little bit. And I'm going to add the contrast. I want to make them look fluffier, so I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. Okay, we're not going to go over the top of it, but I'm going to lower some of the highlights in it. Like I said, we're getting into the evening time, so what we're doing, I'm just bring that light. See this bit here, it's a bit blown out, but I don't want to go again crazy. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit blown out. If we go too much, that now looks artificial and now looks crap. So bear that in mind. Let's go, take that back. Let's just go back a little bit. Just so I can see how the sun's cutting through the clouds slightly. There we go, that's safe. Let's just up the contrast a little bit. I love how it selects the sky, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Right. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that was my tab, just turn it off. Right. Next one. Actually, what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to take, I'm going to do a radial gradient here. I'm going to go over the bow. So I'm going to turn that round, choose that little one there. Do a little bit more. Bring that down. Again, I've got feather at 100%, that's where I like it to be. I'm just going to up the exposure of that slightly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the temperature of it as well, because you can see it's very blue because the sky was making it blue. But actually I want to make it slightly, I want to warm it up. And by warming it up, it's actually going to make it a little bit more white. There we go. We don't want to remove the blue completely because that, that was the colour it was because of the light, but it doesn't have to be as blue as that. There we go. So that's just sort of taking the edge off a little bit. There we go. So just now what we're going to do, we can use the brush tool, and this is where I can use tab it. These things are brilliant actually for quick sort of fix. I'm just going to paint in some of these areas here. Just on the back of that there. Down the side a little bit. Also, there we go. See these here, you can't see anything in these at the moment. So I want to just go over them. I can't tell what they are because they're trees and bits and pieces, but we want to have a proper look and see what it is. Okay, right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the shadows of them. Up the exposure a little bit. Not too much because we don't want to. What we don't want to do is lift the exposure too much and make the whole image look flat. Now you can see these over here, these are houses and they're all popping out now. That's brilliant, that's much better. So let's just do it before and after so far. Look at that, that's definitely starting to look a bit nicer. Great. Back onto that, I reckon we can do that a little bit more. Let's just lift them shadows slightly more. Probably do it. That's nice, I think it's... Yeah, that's about right now. Let's have a look. Before and after. Yeah, look at that. So if you look at these over here, you can tell now these are houses where before, all that was lost. Okay. And again, on here, you can see the hinge better and you can see a little bit more of the rope. That's great. It just gives it a little bit more detail. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use, I'll show you, the linear gradient here. Just a little bit in this corner, just so we can see a little bit of the texture of the ground. But what I'm going to do, again, I'm going to lift the shadow slightly. Just a little bit. Change the temperature. Excellent. Great. That's all I wanted to do. And what now we are going to go down to the colour grading. The last bit. We're going to warm this up actually. There we go, look at that. That's looking nice. And same with the highlights. Okay, cool. So I've warmed up both sides. Sorry, I'm a bit fussy now. No, that's looking good. Well, actually, I'm going to do one last thing with the mask tool. Just because I'm being fussy, I'm going to get a radial gradient, go over this little bit of a spot just over here, because I just want to see the ripples in the water a little bit more. So I'm just going to lower them slightly. There we go. That's all it is. Voila! Now that looks much better. If I do before and after, how much better does that look now? So it doesn't look artificial. You can see the houses. That actually is closer to what my eye saw. Obviously the camera saw that, I saw that, and I took that photo knowing that's where I wanted to get to. That is why we shoot RAW, and that is why we edit in Lightroom. Now, I hope this tutorial has helped a little bit. If you would like to know any more, please leave some comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please subscribe and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.